Not just they can do that on our airwaves, but that they can do that as one of us, as badge-carrying employees, as paid contributors to our sacred airwaves.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
John, every once in a while I have to get Nicole Wallace on here to remind us that we are blessed beyond any reasonable expectation to come on the air, not just any airwaves, but our blessed airwaves.
And I'm genuflecting, Brad. I'm genuflecting in the general direction of National Public Radio.
No, she's with NBC.
Oh, NBC, that's right, not NPR.
Right.
I'm so used to genuflecting toward my tote bag, which is in the northeast corner of the room, that I have NPR on the brain, Brad.
Which after my 3 days of listening to MSNBC on my Sirius satellite receiver in my car, which was free June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which is no longer free, they're not charging for it, and after listening to MSNBC and thinking to myself, okay, these people are in the same office, the same studios, the same complex as the quote-unquote NBC news people who are supposedly non-biased, and you hear the crazy stuff that comes out of MSNBC. Anyway, John, couple things to talk about today. First off, today is an interesting day, because you know what today is?
Today is your fake birthday.
Today, very good. Today's my fake birthday.
Now, a listener pointed that out to me, and I don't want to throw their name onto the air. But a listener was like, "Hey, isn't tomorrow Brad's birthday?" I said, "It might be his fake birthday." Yeah, I'll ask him about it on the air.
The reason behind that was years ago I interviewed a guy, and this has probably been 15 years ago. I interviewed a guy who was an expert on identity theft, and he said. And when you think about this, when you try to identify yourself, like if you go to pick up a prescription, if you're in the hospital, they always ask you your date of birth, okay? If people know your date of birth, they know your mother's maiden name, they know your address, and obviously they know your name, they can pretty much have a good shot at hacking your identity. So This guy said, don't ever put your real birth date out there on the internet. He said, adopt a fake birthday and put that out there. And he says, and through the years, it will become known that that is your birthday. And if somebody tries to steal your identity, they won't get very far, because when they try to put in your birthday, it'll be the wrong birthday. And they'll say, sorry, wrong birthday. So today's my fake birthday. And I'm up to...
Well, I got you a fake present, Brad.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got you a fake Tesla. It's a Chesterfield lot. Just go up there, tell them you're one of the Kia boys, and wink at them, and then they'll let you drive off in a Tesla.
It's one of my fake birthday presents. Okay, I think I'm up already. I think I'm up to like 30 happy birthdays on my Facebook page.
Are you really?
Yeah, here, let me look. Which is funny, thinking to myself, there have been years that I've gotten into the hundreds, believe it or not. You know, maybe my oh yeah, right. So far, 29 people have posted on my Facebook page this morning about happy birthday.
Incredible. My favorite gimmick is, you know, that there's a certain type of white woman, Brad, that are millennial women that can't say happy birthday. They have to say happy birthday. Like they think they're being original, so they say happy twice. Have you noticed that?
Well, and if they're Gen Xers, they say happy birthday. If they're Gen Zers, they say happy birthday. So, see, John, you're just not with it like I am. I mean, you just got to.
I know. I'm not 89. I mean, you think you'll make it to 90, Brad?
Man, I don't know. It's a tough. It gets tougher every day. Okay, John Combest. That's who that is. Combest. I spell his name because you need that correct spelling to get to his website, johncombest.com. Every single day for 22 plus years, for less than a quarter of my life, every single day for 22 years, he puts together a list of all the important things you should know about Missouri, politics, news, all that kind of stuff. We distill it down to the top three. We bring in Casey, who essentially does this.
We're on our way to the number one.
And we start off with...
in third place.
Some good news for low-income families in Missouri, Brad. States had a choice around the nation. Every state had a choice of whether to accept federal food handout money and use it for poor kids. Kansas accepted the money. Missouri accepted the money. Missouri accepted it back in May, Missouri agreed to start taking this federal taxpayer money to give additional welfare handout money to kids. You say, John, why do we need to provide even more welfare handouts to poor people? Well, other than the fact that we are a caring and compassionate state, it's because in the summertime, a lot of poor kids get their sustenance from the free school meals. And if they're not in school in the summer, Brad, I know you'd have them in school 12 months a year, 6 days a week, right?
And 7 days a week in July.
Of course, to study. Yeah, that's right. To celebrate America's Independence Day.
You're darn right.
But these states get the additional money. The kids get additional money for, I should say the parents are handed additional taxpayer money in the summer to make up for the fact that kids aren't getting their additional free foods in the summer. So the piece comes to us from the Beacon, which used to be the name of a St. Louis outfit that was acquired by St. Louis Public Radio. But the Kansas City Beacon, there's a content creator named Suzanne King. And all of this, Brad, uniquely, is sponsored by a group called Health Forward Foundation, which is a nonprofit group over in Kansas City. So they do a lot of content. It's usually complaining about Republicans and complaining about, whatever, how terrible Republicans are. But this is good news. Now, the key quote, Brad, and one that I think you will approve of, is a quote from a doctor in St. Louis. She's a pediatrician. Her name is Heidi Sally, and she's the incoming president of the Missouri chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics. And Brad, she says that she really hoped that these families will take this additional taxpayer-funded money and spend it on leafy greens. Do you think up at Magic Market, Brad, up on Bell Fountain Road, right up there at Bell Fountain and Trampy, you think people come in with their EBT money and you think they're buying a lot of leafy greens?
John, first off, you brought back memories of the Magic Market, which I used to go to up there on Bell Fountain Road.
Magic Market.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, John. I think more like, matter of fact, I don't want to, take your top three off target here, but I'm going to make a note that I did help out a homeless person yesterday, but I have to ask your opinion on this. But I don't think they're buying leafy greens with their money, John. I really don't. I think, and you know why they're not?
Why is that, Brad?
Because they live in food deserts, and there are no leafy greens in food deserts, right?
That's right. We're in food deserts. Now, you know what? Corporations want to keep leafy greens out. They want to sell red hot riplets and grape soda. And you know what? If people were buying kale, if little Riri and his cousin Tai Tai were buying kale and radishes, companies wouldn't bring leafy greens in because they're paid for by the pork rind industry, Brad. And you know what? I think this doctor's right. I think that people are going to get their free urban handouts, at least in urban areas. And I think they're going to spend it on leafy greens, Brad. So, we can all be optimistic on our fake birthday, right?
Yes, all optimistic. Number two.
Up a notch to number 2.
Ooh, a big deal going on in Columbia, Brad. The University of Missouri curators filed a petition last week. This is according to KBIA, Public Radio in Columbia. The University of Missouri is removing racial and ethnic descriptions from its scholarship materials. Brad, can you believe this? The University of Missouri is following the letter of the law and is taking steps to no longer discriminate against students based on race or ethnicity. I got to tell you, Brad, I was surprised by this, and call me naive or maybe call me super jaded, whichever way you want to go on that scale. But I thought universities like Mizzou would never actually follow through in removing racist language from scholarships. What do you think?
Well, no, hold on, Mitch. Essentially what you're saying is it wasn't that they were discriminated against. They were giving preference for. Wasn't that the way the situation was, where there was preference for minorities?
Sure,
in the scholarships?
There were certain scholarships that had terms like black or African American in it.
Right. So in other words, if you were white or you were Latino, and if there was a scholarship that was intended for black people, you couldn't apply for that, or at least you could, I guess, but you'd get rejected for that scholarship.
Yeah,
correct?
That's correct. So I'm not sure exactly where this is going to go. I know that Attorney General Andrew Bailey has weighed in on these before, and it's been a long debate, especially on the federal level, of whether these type of scholarships are indeed racist or not. But it looks like Mizzou, or I should say University of Missouri Board of Curators, is following through with removing some of that scholarship language.
You know, I tried to call Andrew Bailey to give him some advice on his campaign, but he won't listen to me. But you know what my advice to him would be?
Get a bigger office at 97.1.
Yeah, and he's on the air all the time. He's on the air almost as much as Mark Cox. No, my advice to Andrew Bailey would be to come on TV with a TV ad and look directly at the camera and say, I'm Andrew Bailey, and Will Scharf is a failed attorney. Yes, he failed to get Donald Trump declared innocent. He did. He failed in his job to get our greatest president ever thrown out, the case thrown out of court and dismissed. He failed. I would have succeeded. I'm Andrew Bailey, and vote for me in August, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, hey, we went back and forth on that last week. I did see an Andrew Bailey ad yesterday, and I remember one of the taglines was that Will Scharf worked for Joe Biden's Department of Justice. And it was like, oh, man.
Did he really? So Will Scharf worked for DOJ?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was an attorney in the Department of Justice, yeah.
Well,
and then he left, you know, but like,
so did the guy that prosecuted Trump. What was his name? The number 3. They said he was. It's interesting. I read up on this, and this is sort of fascinating. The number 3 guy in the DOJ resigns from the Department of Justice to go to work for Andrew Bragg's office in New York City. That would be like, let's say, one of the best Cardinals players coming up in the morning and saying, you know what, I don't want to play here in St. Louis. I'm batting .350. I've hit already 50 home runs for the season. I want to go back to Memphis. Better yet, I want to go back to Double-A ball in Springfield. People go like, okay, hold on a minute. You're like in the bigs. You're making big money. Why would you want to go back to the minor leagues, which essentially is what happens when, and I don't mean to impugn people who are, what they call ADAs or APAs, assistant district attorneys or assistant public attorneys, but on the pecking order of attorneys, that's not high up on the list. Would you pretty much agree with me on that, John?
The guy's name is Matthew Colangelo.
Hey,
Colangelo.
Right,
I just
right.
looked it up. Brad, it seems like you're suggesting there might have been a sweetheart deal for Hunter Biden, and that leads nicely into story number 1.
Oh, number 1.
The number 1.
Senator Eric Schmitt was on the Ingram angle on Fox News talking about the, quote, sweetheart deal, unquote, that the Justice Administration was trying to get for Hunter Biden. Brad, you smartened me up yesterday a little bit more on the details about the Hunter Biden case and what's going on. And they talked yesterday on the Ingram angle about the fact that, Joe Biden was in the courtroom during jury selection. Eric Schmitt's point, and that is the top link on johnconwest.com today, is about how the Biden administration has been looking to get a sweetheart deal for Hunter Biden. Eric Schmitt says that as a former prosecutor, these gun deals are generally a slam dunk case. And it's just so clear when you juxtapose what's happening with Hunter Biden with, to use Eric Schmitt's words in the interview, what happened one business day prior with Donald Trump and the way that Donald Trump was treated. So that's our number 1 story today,
Well,
Brad.
And not to belabor that point. Okay, let's take a little bit further. Last week on Friday, when we had our president do a special address to the nation, talk about the Donald Trump verdict on Thursday, he said no one should be above the law. Well, maybe he should look at his son and essentially see all the, because remember, it was a year ago, just about a year ago, that he went in front. Wasn't that a lady judge there in Delaware where they had this plea deal put together, which was going to absolve him of the gun charge and the tax charges and this charges and that charges, and that judge blew the thing up. Which go, oh, hold on a minute now. I'm not doing this. Now he's in court. Now once again, the bizarre, crazy, weird circumstances of this whole thing. And it's like something out of, it's almost to the point where if you had a Hollywood script writer say, okay, write me a crazy script about the president's son, and you would say, okay, the president's son, his brother dies of cancer, and the other president's son starts having an affair with his widow, and he buys a gun, and he's going to do something with the gun, and his widow/girlfriend finds out about it, and she grabs it and throws it into a trash bin. You go like, okay, hold on a minute now. I said something believable, not unbelievable.
Yeah,
You know?
truth is stranger than fiction
It's
here, Brad.
just
I mean, especially with
bizarre.
Hunter Biden. Who knew
Now-
that we would run into this? Go ahead.
Can I say something to you that this was said to me over the weekend by someone, and it was interesting because it was said to me by a woman, and
Yeah.
she meant it in all sincerity. She watched the episode last week, I believe it was last week, where Jill Biden was on with The View. And she was talking about how her husband, Joe Biden, is the smartest man alive, and he's this and he's that. And it's been rumored that the reason that Joe Biden does not step down as candidate for presidency in 2024 is because of Jill. And this woman said to me, Jill is the classic enabler in the respect that she is essentially so happy with being the first woman. She wants to be the first woman for another 4 years. It gives her prestige and all power and notoriety and things like that. And everywhere she goes, people are following her. And whatever she says, you should be cooking. Women across the country are cooking. This lady said Jill is the classic enabler, or essentially a defender of her husband, when she should be saying to her husband, Joe, you know what? You've put in a long, good career in politics. You went from, whatever he was. He was he's something in Delaware. He was like a low-level thing. He went up through the ranks, was a senator for a long time, became vice president, then became president. Joe, it's time to step aside. But she won't do that. Do you think there might be something to that she's the one?
I think that can be true, and I think it can also be not unique. I think every president has. I mean, let's face it, Donald Trump has a whole lot of people around him who tell him what he wants to hear, who worship at the altar of everything he says. I think it's probably pretty common among people that are in positions of power.
Yeah,
but go ahead, Brett.
But it's different when you got a wife. You know what I mean? I mean, it's different in respect to if you have.
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. And maybe, I mean, I do, maybe I'm too sympathetic to Biden here, but I view him as just an old man who doesn't have it all together. And I agree that it's incumbent. As someone else once said, if Joe Biden was our mom or dad, we would have a conversation with our siblings about what do we do with dad? Like, he can't keep living on his own. We have to do something with him.
But the sad part of that is, and not because I'm an old guy, because today's my fake birthday and I'm at 88 today, but the sad part of that is that age truly is relative. I know people who are in their 20s and 30s who, when it's raining, you have to say, hey, it's raining, get out of the rain. Oh, I wonder why my clothes were getting wet. And then I know people who are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who are sharp as a tack. I give the example.
That's true. And you've discussed the attorney example before several times.
Right.
But at the same time, I just think, I mean, if you're Joe Biden, you want to see your husband through this election, and if he doesn't win, then it's the sunset of his career, and he can go rest for a while.
Well, I guess what always bothers me, and you kid me about the fact that I am sort of like a self-deprecating kind of guy. I don't ever want to be the guy that says, hey, this is the world's best radio station. We've got more listeners than WNBC in New York City. We've got more listeners than WOAI in San Antonio. When it's blatantly not true, we don't have those listenership.
Yeah. But Brad, you also don't surround yourself with enablers. You don't surround yourself with people who just tell you what you want to hear. And people that do that are generally have some sort of a narcissistic streak, or they live in their own reality, and they eliminate people that don't reinforce that reality.
Well, John,
you're not like that.
You don't know that about me because I have a bunch of women around me that say, oh, Brad, you're the next Hugh Hefner. Oh, invite me over to your mansion.
Hey, did he bite the big one already?
Yeah, he's been dead for a while.
Oh, has he really?
Yeah.
We should play a game sometime of are they dead or alive?
Hey, let me tell you something.
I would have no idea.
Once again, me being fascinated by biographies, he has an absolutely positively fascinating biography. I mean, the biography of Hugh Hefner is truly interesting on many levels, and not only for societal reasons, but for all sorts of other crazy things as well, too. I mean, he was a pioneer in so many different aspects of media and life and society and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just really sort of fascinating.
I would buy the biography, but I would only read it for the words, Brad, not for the pictures.
Thank you, John.
Just on the record, I would get it just for the words.
John, it's time for us to pay some bills.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?